Hi everyone, my name is Macaulay. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about online shopping safety.
So we're going to start off talking a bit about the online shopping landscape. Then we're going to talk about online shopping risks and scams that are out there. Talk about signs that says signs, it should say signs of an online shopping scam, and then how to practice secure online shopping. So let's talk about online shopping. It is currently 20.8% of retail purchases are expected to take place online in 2023. So it is very prevalent. We're doing more and more of our shopping online. By 2026, that number is expected to raise to 24% of retail purchases happening online. So we're more and more online. It is becoming one, easier to shop online, and two, sometimes more difficult to find things in person in real retail stores. So the chances of us having to use online shopping are going up. So if we're going to be using it, whether we like it or not, it's good that we stay protected. Now, a bit of a snapshot in terms of who these sellers are. Amazon accounts for 37.8% of e-commerce sales. It's the highest market share of all e-commerce companies. So that's the biggest one. However, Walmart, eBay, and AliExpress are the most visited commerce websites. So we have a couple other big ones in there. And then scattered throughout are a bunch of smaller ones. Now, whether an e-commerce company, an online store is big or small, there are risks we have to look out for. They may differ from each one to another, but we're going to go over what those are. But just so you can see those rising expected numbers from 2015 with 7.4% of retail sales happening online, all the way to where we are now at 20.8%. So this is really growing. It's growing pretty fast, and showing kind of no signs of slowing down at the moment. So what are the risks of online shopping? So a lot of these risks are risks we talked about before, but the most common risks associated with online shopping are, one, identity theft. So usually this involves cyber criminals hacking into e-commerce websites and stealing users' logins or credit card details, enabling them to either impersonate users to make fraudulent purchases or sell personal details to other criminals online. So this is something that you can protect yourself against by doing things like creating really strong passwords. But on a grander scale, sometimes there are data breaches within companies that can leave our information vulnerable. And that, again, is just a reality. There are a couple ways we can mitigate some of that stuff, though, when we're creating our profiles. The next is on fake online stores. So unfortunately, not all e-commerce sites are actually real. Scammers can set up fake websites, and either they're just fake websites or they're standalones. A lot of the time, they are designed to mimic or be a dupe of a real website, something we might be familiar with and comfortable with. They'll copy design layouts and steal logos to trick unsuspecting users into thinking that they are visiting a trusted site, and they'll offer popular clothing brands, jewelry, and electronics, and they'll offer them at really low prices. So it will be really enticing. And sometimes users will receive the items they've paid for, but usually they're going to be fake. Other times users just won't receive anything at all. So that can play out in a number of different ways. Next, we have unencrypted data. So some websites don't encrypt their data. So even if the website itself doesn't have a bad intention or malintention in hosting their store, if their store is not secure, if your connection to that store is not encrypted, they don't have that SSL certificate. That's that little HTTPS :// that we talk about a lot when it comes to staying safe when visiting sites. They don't have that protocol, those safety protocols. That leaves them vulnerable, and it leaves you vulnerable to outsiders hacking your connection and kind of seeing what you're doing on those sites and tracking and finding that information that you're providing to a site, whether that's your name, your address, your credit card information. We also have data breaches, which we kind of talked about in the identity theft part of it. So when you shop online, you share sensitive information, you're sharing that credit card sharing your address, contact information. If hackers gain access, unauthorized access to an e-commerce website, there's a risk that your information could be exposed in the event of a data breach. Other things we look at online, some of these maybe not as much of, direct fraud, stealing your credit card information, stealing identity fraud, but fake reviews. So many online shoppers read reviews right before you buy. It's a smart thing to do, but you do have to be aware that not all online reviews are genuine. If a particularly retailer has a pattern of reviews that seem too good to be true or lack detail, you may want to try to check the source or look for other alternatives to buying an item. Because even though, that sale might be real, you might end up getting a product at the end. You might get a really bad product, and you might have been misled in that product. Fake apps, so going online with fake online stores, just because it is an app on your smartphone or your tablet doesn't necessarily make it more legitimate than just going to an online retailer website. So do watch out for those. There can be fake versions. Hopefully they get shut down before they affect anyone. But always when you are downloading apps, you want to make sure that you're checking who the developer of that app is and making sure that it matches the store that you are wanting to shop on. So going in and looking at those extra details about apps that you're downloading, which is something we should be doing anytime we're downloading applications or programs onto our phones or tablets. Another risk of online shopping is doing so on unsecured Wi-Fi. So maybe you're shopping on Amazon, it's a secure website, your connection to it is secure in that sense. But if you're doing it on a public Wi-Fi network and you're not using added protections like a virtual private network, which again, we've talked about, if you want more information on that, VPNs as a type of software you could have on your devices that basically protect your connections, even when you're using public Wi-Fi's. But if you're using public Wi-Fi's, they're going to be less secure than your home Wi-Fi or other encrypted connections, and they can also leave you vulnerable. So you're at risk doing that. We just advise don't online shop if you're on a public Wi-Fi network, whether it's an airport, library, public transport Wi-Fi, and keep that activity to either on your cellular data plan on your phone if you're doing it, or when you're connected to a secure Wi-Fi network at home. And we have adware. So adware refers to those unsolicited ads or those pop-ups on the screen when you're browsing the internet. Adware is advertising software, and its purpose is to generate revenue for its owner. So adware can be legitimate, but it could also be used by cyber criminals for fraudulent purposes. So, for example, it could be luring you to malicious websites to try to obtain personal information. So, you could be on a legitimate website, but the ad you're seeing for an online shop elsewhere might be fraudulent. So we have to be sure that we're always taking precautions there, even if we're approaching it from a secure website, from a Facebook or from a news source, and we see an ad for online shopping on the side. Beware that those are not always legitimate. And then lastly, phishing. Phishing is something we talk about all the time because it is kind of encapsulates a lot of what we talked about so far. But this is really the main way that cyber criminals will actually attack you or affect individuals. And this involves scammers sending, fake emails or text messages. This is happening also, especially with the online shopping sphere, sometimes on social media. So sending fake communications that might appear to be from a genuine retailer, maybe they contain an attachment or a link designed to trick a receiver into clicking on them, and maybe that launches malware infection. You can also look a number of other ways, and there's a number of scams that use this in the online shopping sphere, whether it's, again, luring you to a website with a promise of really discounted prices or coupons, or maybe it's a fake shipping confirmation, and it's asking you to fill out information to complete a delivery on an order that you didn't place. So this is really common in this sphere as well. So with that being said, those are the risks and how they kind of actually work We're going to talk about what those actual scams are, what they look like, what some of the, I guess, narratives around those scams are that we might actually see in practice. So as we said, first of all, those fake websites, scammers will create whole fakes online of stores or dupe real ones in order to lure victims in. When we're seeing this, we want to look out for some signs of a fake website or app, right? This is like the number one most direct way that online shopping scams might occur. You Google or you do a search out to find an item. Say you're looking for a toaster. You go to a website, maybe it looks like, I don't know, the Walmart website, for example, and you're looking at toasters and you're doing your online shopping and it looks pretty legit. But you have to watch out for more specific details. Or maybe it's a website you haven't heard of before and you're on it. So things like that unsecure URL. So when we're on a website, if we don't see that little lock icon at the top of the screen next to the URL bar, if we don't see that https:// precursor to a website, usually our browser will say, this is not secure. And you'll kind of see a little pop-up on the top of your screen to tell you that. Another thing you can look at is dodgy domain history. This may not be something that you are into searching or doing, but you can look this up. There's a few tools that let us do this, including Google's Safe Browsing Transparency search. Basically, this is a website. It allows us to look up websites and see their history of who's owned a site, if it's passed from hands to hand. So say you find a new shopping website, you're curious about it, maybe you're looking to buy something from it, but you're unsure. You can go here and you can go to, say, a website and you can search no unsafe content found. So you can kind of see and get a glimpse of, has there been any unsecure things on this website? What's the history of it? So this is a really easy tool for any website to check right away. But looking up and doing that research on a site, especially if it's new, you might see stuff like pixelated images. It's a copy of another site, right? They may not be downloading the full picture resolution. They may just be downloading, the little thumbnail you see when you're shopping online for the item. They're downloading it at that size. And so when they then pull it, the quality lessens, they put it on their website, and then you get this pixelated version. So something to look at if the images are kind of bad quality or pixelated. Typos and bad grammar. This is always a sign, whether it's phishing in any scam. Typos and bad grammar are all there. Just general amateur design. The website's kind of difficult to navigate, slow maybe. That might tell you something about what this is. This is like a cheap operation. Really their goal is just volume and to get as many people on there and scam as many people as possible with as little investment and effort as possible. Steep discounts, if it's too good to be true. You're seeing like cheaper prices than you see anywhere else on the internet. That is a bad sign as well, especially with the internet, because there's a capability to do really quick price checks. Websites do this themselves, right? Amazon does this themselves. They make sure that their prices are competitive always. So you don't actually see a huge amount of variation in prices across the internet. So if the site you're on is like significantly cheaper than every other site for the same item, that's a red flag immediately. Limited contact details. So if there's no way to email or talk to someone from the company, if there's no address listed, really just difficult to find anything about who are the people that run this website. What is the company? So limited details, vague details. And then a complicated or no return policy. So when you're at the stage, this is more if you're in the later stage, at the stage the item is in your cart and you read through maybe the policy and there's no sign of a return policy. Again, whether that is a legitimate site or not, you want to make sure that you can find a return policy and understand your options when you're buying things online. Sometimes legitimate websites don't really make their return policy clear. I still stay away from those just because I want to know that if my item is damaged or if it's not working or whatever it is, that I can return it. That's one of the complicating factors of online shopping. So no return policy or some sort of complicated, convoluted return policy. Now, another common thing we see a lot in online shopping scams that I'm sure you get a lot of are those email promotions and links. So you may receive an email toting great deals on products. Sometimes, again, these can come from a brand but it's actually not them. They've been duped. Sometimes it's just random. You can see this one over to the right. And these scams also proliferate on social media. These are not just exclusive to email or text. They're really anywhere you can be contacted. I get like Instagram DMs all the time about deals on sunglasses, or you may get a promoted post on Facebook or Instagram doing this. So this is everywhere. Anytime, again, you're getting unsolicited promotions from sites you don't know that are promising really steep discounts and doing the same things of saying, giving you a sense of urgency is something to look out for. So the signs of these fake promotions, right? These are the classic phishing emails. So we're looking out for those regular signs: grammar and spelling errors, inconsistencies in email addresses and links and domain. It says it's coming from Amazon, but the email domain is, shopping at amazon.gr.j.com, right? It's not right. It's not coming from amazon.com. So looking for those inconsistencies, making sure that we're checking links to make sure that they're leading to the places that they say they're leading, because again, those can be covered and faked. There's always that sense of urgency. You only have the next 2 hours to take this deal. Otherwise, it's gone forever. And you're never going to get prices like this again. So that sense of urgency, sort of suspicious attachments, especially if it's like a coupon email or something, there's probably not a need for an attachment. So it shouldn't be there. It's just generally too good to be true, promising steep discounts, and just requests for payment info or other personal details that don't seem to be necessary, right? That you're getting. Another really common one that we're seeing a lot, and this one comes up a lot during the holidays when you're receiving packages, it's gifts from others, and you're not necessarily sure what's coming in, or maybe nuts. Maybe you're expecting a lot of presents, maybe you're not. Surprise. So that package delivery confirmation scam. So scammers will send you a message like this one we were on the left. Your package has been returned to your local depot due to unpaid shipping fee. To avoid extra fees, reschedule the delivery. Here is a link, and you're going to go and you're going to get them all your information, and you're going to pay to have it, the duties you need to pay on this item, and then they just end up stealing your information, and you never get a package because it didn't exist in the first place. So this is, again, very common, and again, it's really common around the holidays when we're receiving maybe packages and gifts from people, so we're not keeping track. This is when this one seems to proliferate the most. So to be watching out for this one in the coming months as we get closer to the holidays, especially. And again, these come in the form of email as well as text message. So once again, with this, same signs as the last. These are the classic signs to look out for in phishing emails and texts. This one, a bit more those unsolicited contact. I didn't order anything. I don't remember someone telling me they got me something. Thinking those ways, just using that logic. Looking for those grammar and spelling errors, those inconsistencies in email address, links, and domain, that sense of urgency, suspicious attachments, and again, requests for payment info or other personal details that don't seem necessary. Especially if you're just getting a package, you're supposed to be getting a package and they just need more details to complete the delivery. They probably don't need your payment info, right? That should have already been handled. So things like that to think about. So those are some of those kind of main ones that we see. There may be others that crop up, but a lot of those crop up around those kind of three sort of lines of scams. So the main one just being fake websites. You're buying fake products or faulty products, and you just don't know where they're coming from. And then there's a few like phishing email kind of scams that go along with it, mainly those, delivery ones and the coupon ones or the deals ones that you'll get. So when you are, say, on a website and you are planning on doing some online shopping, a few things, quick ways to check if an online retailer is legitimate. Check for that SSL certificate. That's that HTTPS thing. Look for a privacy statement. Look for an address and phone number if you can find one. Looking out for spelling and grammar mistakes. Checking if the website accepts cards, and looking at online reviews. And you can also check the Better Business Bureau to see what the registered actual website is of a company that you are planning on buying from. So all those tools are at your disposal. What that kind of might look like in a quick glance is, so if I'm, say, on, I don't know, an Amazon.com, right? I'm on my site here. We're looking for things like up here in the, right? That's that HTTPS here, right? That's that security protocol. When we're buying items, we want to make sure that we're looking for their return policy. So if I'm on, say, this item here, right? When we're on items, there should be clear information about the item, lots of details, as well as a return policy, which usually comes right under the shopping. So here, we should see all this information in a place like this, right? So I could find this item. We want to make sure there's lots of information on the item. We also want to make sure there are lots of reviews, not just a few, that they have varying points of view. They are written in different languages, right? Even when we're reading reviews, looking at them and going, these all seem to be written in the same tone, the same kind of voice. Pictures are always a great sign that even that a website is legitimate. Really, when we're thinking of online shopping, we may want to support smaller retailers, but it kind of is, for the sake of our safety, important just to go with the ones that we know, the ones that a lot of people are using to ensure our safety. So we can see there's lots of reviews here. That's a good sign. We can also see things like over here, as I said, we can see things like, payment, secure transaction. We can see who it's sold by, the return policy, all of that. So all of that information should be available to us. The more details, really, the better it is. Let me get back. Let's talk about secure online shopping practices, things that we should be doing when we are shopping online to ensure that we protect ourselves and stay safe. So the best thing you can do, or the top thing you can do when you're shopping online to keep yourself safe and you're unsure, is to shop from trusted IRL, so in real life retailers online, or ones that are big names, Walmart, Best Buys, the Amazon, the Etsy's, if we're looking for smaller sellers or craft sellers online. Using these platforms that we know that we know are trusted generally, and staying away from smaller retailers. That being said, obviously, we want to support smaller retailers. We don't want to give all our money to big evil Amazon or Walmart, but we do have to take extra precautions with those sites just because, they are maybe the ones that are more vulnerable, or that, may have less resources to put towards their privacy and security. So we have to take that on our own side, and we kind of have to share in that responsibility in terms of security. So using those familiar sites. Even on those familiar sites, though, things like Best Buy and Walmart, they do offer platforms for marketplace sellers. So that may mean that someone has an item from Best Buy that they are reselling. So they may actually be an individual reselling on that platform. This is an option they offer. So when you are shopping online, if you see something that's a really good deal on the online store, they don't always make this really apparent, unfortunately. Check out to see if it's a marketplace seller or even if it's an open box product, because oftentimes they'll put those out there and they make the font on it really small so you can't see it, which is unfortunate that they do that. So be sure you're paying close attention. You're actually buying a product from even on those big stores. That's really mostly a thing with Best Buy and Walmart. You'll see sort of similar practices on Amazon. When something is sold directly from the Amazon warehouse, it's sold by an individual seller. But if it says it's delivered or shipped via Amazon fulfillment, that means that Amazon stores the product themselves, they ship it out themselves, and they're responsible for the entire way of it getting there. That's when you see those really, really quick delivery times. If something is not Amazon fulfillment, that means that the seller holds their product themselves and sends it to you or mails it to you independently. So it's not sent out through the Amazon Prime trucks and their delivery methods. So those things can tend to take longer. There's also less checks on those products because they're coming directly from a seller. So some things to be aware of when you're shopping from these bigger stores, that there are some kind of gaps in those systems with the marketplace or the non-Amazon fulfillment sellers. As we said, always check a site's security. Make sure you go and see if that HTTPS is there. Look for that little lock icon that we see to make sure your connection to it is secure. You can research the seller, as we already said, Better Business Bureau. You can find a business, and usually they also include, when you search for a business, they'll also include their registered website, so you can make sure that you're on the correct website for that seller, that retailer. And you can also check just on ratings in general, reviews of the seller as well. So to top it off of making sure you have the right website, that they have a good rating from the Better Business Bureau, and that they don't have any big complaints about them. This is, again, not as reliable for smaller sellers. They may not be registered, especially if they're independent sellers. Maybe they're just simply like a sole proprietorship and they're not registered under the Better Business Bureau because they're just getting started. So it's something to consider. Not all sellers will be on here, but many will be, and you can make sure that you check there. If they aren't, say, on the Better Business Bureau and you're unsure, you can always research the seller using Google, check forums, and find other shoppers' experience. This can be especially helpful for newer sellers or ones that are not based in the US or Canada. So you can just search, is this website legit? Is this website trustworthy? You'll probably find some sort of Quora or Reddit like forum question about it, and people talking about it. So getting real people's response on this and hearing what they have to say. So looking into that, doing your research, especially when it's a smaller seller, is really important. You can also, again, like I said, consult those product reviews. Make sure there are a lot of product reviews. I always am under the impression if there's not enough, if there's like less than 100 product reviews, I don't want to be the guinea pig on a product. That's just my extra precaution and safety. You got no worries and money to blow, go for it. But I like to make sure that I pick products that a lot of people have written positive reviews about. That being said, generally when people write reviews, remember they either write reviews because they really love something or they really hated it. Those who feel kind of indifferent to a product or it just works okay or it's a satisfactory product are usually not the ones writing reviews. So making sure that you take that with a grain of salt when you're reading those reviews and read a lot of them to get a good idea and looking for things you see over and over again. And again, most websites will have those reviews directly under the product they are selling. Reviews on a selling site can generally give you feedback about the product as well as the seller. So you're not just going to hear about, oh, great, this blender was great. You also say this blender was great and it came really quickly, well packaged, and everything was awesome. So looking for those details as well. You're not just wanting to understand what the quality of the product is you're buying, but also the response of the seller, how helpful they are, how quickly they get things out, and how well they package the items that they send you. And if something is wrong, how they deal with it. You can also use Google, just going to Google. If you search an item, Ninja Blender review on Google, Google has this whole review section, and you can review reviews across the internet. So rather than looking at reviews for a specific website, looking at reviews for items across the internet, different places, just so you get an idea of the product itself, right? There might be an item that's relatively cheap, sold across a bunch of platforms. And again, it's not a scam. It can feel like a scam if you pay a lot of money for a product that's faulty. So make sure that you look at those reviews across the internet. And you see a view of a product here that's unencumbered by the complaints about from buyers about the sellers and more about the products themselves. I would also always say when you're shopping online, this is not really a scam thing, but consult product reviews on sites like Wirecutter. It's a great place to get really good reviews on products if you really know what you're buying. Again, part of the online shopping process, there are those things that are like about having, just scammers and people who want to get money out of you and not offer you a product. There's also kind of a lower level of kind of scam where you're just getting a really bad product. And because you're shopping online, you don't get to see it ahead of time. You don't get to have a lot of information on it ahead of time. So really doing your research when you're online shopping protects you from, just making a purchase that was bad from a dishonest seller. You could also price check items online. So this is really important, especially when we're talking about sites where it's like, oh, it's a really great deal. This is something just to check so you can find great deals on items, but it also allows you to see what is the going price across the web. All of these sites, places like Amazon, Walmart, they're constantly doing their own price checks. So they're checking on other websites to make sure that their prices are competitive. So we don't actually see a huge amount of variation across the internet in pricing of items. If it's one price somewhere else, it's probably going to be a similar price elsewhere. So price checking items that you're looking at on a site that you're not sure about, going to Google Shopping is a site that lets you do this. Shopping.google.com, I believe, is the URL. And just checking for the item, because if you're looking at an item and it's like 50% less than it is anywhere else on the internet, you're not seeing a similar deal. That's just something to think about. It might be a red flag. Again, it might be someone trying to lure you into buying a faulty product or giving away your information for something that's never going to come. So doing those price checks, shopping.google.com, you can look up an item. So you can see here, right? Like we're seeing the same prices pretty much across. There's not a huge amount of variation across entire Best Buy and Amazon. It's all the same price. So if you're looking at a site and you're not seeing it, you're seeing it like at, $40, that probably is a red flag for you. And you can also use Yahoo Shopping to do this as well if you're anti-Google. Yahoo Shopping offers the same service. As I said, always checking your return policy. If a site doesn't have a return policy, if they're unclear about the return policy, that's another way you can be scammed. Again, you might get a product, but it might be crap, to put it plainly, and you have no way of giving it back. And you've bought something that's worth, $2 and you spent $40 on it. So looking at that return policy to make sure that you have a way to get your money back, to give this item back if it doesn't meet the expectations or there's something wrong with it. And be sure to read it carefully. Always ideally, there's free shipping on return. Sometimes there isn't, less and less there is, because people buy a lot of stuff online and return them willy-nilly. And so a lot of websites are kind of rescinding the free shipping option that they offered. A lot of the times you do have to pay them back. So again, making that calculation and what grounds you can return an item on, right? You might buy a product and it says, oh, there's returns, but then there's like a million clauses that say you can't return it after 2 days and this and that and this. And so you have to really read it to make sure that you won't be, told, actually, no, you did this little thing and now you can't return it, to make sure that you know what legs you have to stand on if you need to return an item. And check for privacy policies. These, when you're shopping on a site, especially a new site, they should be transparent about their policies, specifically their privacy policies. This is what they do with the information that you give them. How do they protect it? And do they sell it to anyone? So checking for privacy policies. So be sure they have one in place. Generally, you'll find this a lot of the time at the bottom of the page. So if you scroll down to the very bottom of the website, there's usually a little footer section and it has like about and anything. And hopefully in there, you'll find a policies section. and within it, you can find it. So it might look like this at the bottom of your screen, right? You scroll all the way down and you have like this little bottom part of the website where it has extra items you're not finding on the main kind of bar, the main activity bar at the top where you can like go to different sections. It's usually at the bottom of the page, along with like all of these other things. So look at that privacy policy again, especially if the site you're not as familiar with. Make sure that they have one to begin with, right? You want to make sure that not only is your purchase secure, but that your information that you provide is secure. When you're online shopping, as much as possible, use a credit card, not a debit if you can. Because in case that your account gets compromised or your card info is stolen, using a credit card will be less damaging to you. You don't want to give people access to your full bank account by using a debit. So use a credit card, you'll have more protection on it. And also you'll be at less risk if someone has that information in terms of just losses. When you are online shopping, if you're creating an account for a website, say you're creating an Amazon account, you need to create a strong password, especially if you're saving information like card information to an account. So make those long passwords, 8 character at minimum, 10 or more characters is best. You can write a sentence to create that length and make it complex. Use lower and upper cases, use numbers and special characters, and use these throughout. Those numbers and special characters, not just at the beginning, not just a capital M at the beginning and an exclamation mark at the end, right? Using a lot of variation in your passwords. And that's especially true on any account that houses information to do with payments. You want to make sure that those are the most secure. If it's possible to set up 2-factor authentication, set that up. Don't save payment details. Do not save your payment details to your browser specifically. When you go to a site and you put in your card number, and then you get this little pop-up from the Edge browser or Google Chrome, and it says you want to save your card to your Microsoft account. I would suggest not doing that, just to be, again, abundantly cautious, to be extra cautious. Don't even say your payment details inside of an online shopping account, right? So if you have an Amazon account, you have all your cards saved within that account, it's a hassle, it's annoying. You can put in your payment details each time you make a purchase and then remove them. Is a little extra step. A lot of people don't do that. I don't do that, but I've seen people do it. It is a way to add an extra layer of caution, again, especially if there's data breaches that are beyond your control of the company itself, and that information is vulnerable. So you can always go in and remove those. If you have a bunch, you can remove them, or maybe just keep credit cards. If you say you had to use a debit card once to make a purchase for some reason, maybe remove that one, especially keeping credit cards is going to be less risky for you than a debit card. So doing it that way. As we said, don't shop in public. One, because people can get your card information over your shoulder if you're holding your card out. And again, shopping on public Wi-Fi networks leaves you vulnerable to people, gaining access to what you're doing online and that information that you're sharing over the internet. So shopping at home as much as possible, or using your cellular data network if you have to buy something on the go. And always think about the information you're sharing. If a website's asking you for too much information, something to think twice about. They don't need things like your social security number. They really just need your payment and where to send it. That's really it. They don't need your date of birth, right? So think about the information you're providing. They really just need your payment, the billing, I guess, and then where to deliver it at the end of the day. So that's the only information you should ever be sharing when you're doing online shopping. If they're asking for anything more, that is a red flag. Always check your statements regularly, right? In the case that your information is compromised, you can act quicker to minimize that damage. So if you're doing a lot of online shopping, making sure that you're using online banking so that you can keep an eye out on purchases that are being made, because things may not come up as suspicious to your bank, right? Especially if you're using something like Amazon a lot. and then someone gets your information and then uses it on Amazon, that just may look like a regular Amazon purchase from you. So you want to make sure that you're checking them regularly, right? Because we're doing online purchases and a lot of the online retailers are the same places, you may not get those same alerts that you get like when someone uses your card across the country, and that's obviously a red flag. Because if they're using Amazon, it's coming through the same payment system, and they just may not flag it because it just looks like another Amazon purchase from you. So checking those regularly. You have that 60-day time frame to avoid charges. So you can file a claim with your bank online or over the phone. So reach out to them first and foremost. Make sure that that card that you've used, if that card's been breached, that it's cut off. See what you can do about it. Again, that's another reason to use a credit card. Generally, we get more protections. Report the fraud to local authorities. This is a bit iffy, right? If you just bought a bad product, that's you can't really do anything. But if it's really a scam website and you never got anything, change the passwords of all your online shopping accounts, especially if you're using similar passwords across platforms, which you shouldn't do anyway, but make sure that you change those to be safe and report it to the CAFC in Canada or the FTC, Federal Trade Commission in the US, when that happens, so that they know and can take proper action on those sites. Because again, this is an issue that's across the internet. The more and more we shop online, the more prevalent this is going to become. So we want to make sure that we keep others safe as well as ourselves. The bottom line, shopping online can provide great convenience and great deals, but be mindful when shopping online and do your research before making any purchases or giving away information.
All right. And if you have any additional questions about this topic, you can always call us at Cyber Seniors toll free at 844-217-3057 or visit us at cyberseniors.org.